of WorkSafe New Zealand. So, Mr Chair.
I call the honourable member, the Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman, and I apologise to my colleague who was in full flight, and I'd like to carry on. The profound wisdom of having a worker involved in the active management of health and safety is so clear when we read through the objectives of WorkSafe New Zealand and being set up, advise on the operation of the workplace, recommendations for changes to improve, developing codes of practice, training. All of those things rely on, pardon the pun, but the cold-faced wisdom of people going back into health and safety systems. And for the government to ignore that is perhaps a continuation of the stupidity and the blind arrogance that led to the 1992 legislation. And I use those blunt words because I can still recall a meeting with Bill Brazel, a previous mine manager, who said to me in 1994 that you will rue the day, you being the government, I was a member in opposition at the time, that you changed that legislation to discard the wisdom of 100 years of legislation. Mr Speaker, my colleagues have spoken eloquently on that, and I'll go on to what I see as a rather ironic part of Part 1, and that's in Subpart 3 here, a transition to WorkSafe New Zealand and consequential amendments. That is that a part here protecting the terms and conditions and employment of those people who transfer from what was the Department of Labour, I guess it's MB, through into WorkSafe New Zealand. And I applaud the provisions in here. Many, in fact thousands of workers in New Zealand would love to have had these provisions when they were kicked from a job into another one, when the contractor or the name of the contract changed, and they saw their terms and conditions disappear in front of them. Well, the government, in its wisdom, part wisdom, short wisdom, temporary wisdom, I don't know, has seen fit to ensure that the people who transfer into WorkSafe New Zealand will retain the terms and conditions of their previous employment. I applaud that. And then I've gone through to work out who that may apply to. And I guess it could be a number of people. WorkSafe New Zealand should be a big organisation. If I go back to the reason for this legislation in the first place, it is the Royal Commission inquiry into the Pike River disaster. And there are a number of recommendations here, and what we're doing tonight is progressing legislation that is part and parcel of these recommendations. As we know, it was a thorough inquiry and exposed a lot of flaws at almost every level of governance and management in the company, oversight by the government itself, and a number of other areas. What it says here, of course, in the report, or the summary of the report, is that things had got pretty bad in the mining inspectorate. It said, in fact, got down, I might say here, that at the time of the tragedy, Department of Labour had only 2 mining inspectors. They were under huge pressure. And then it goes on to say that actually in May 2012, the Minister announced extra funding of $37 million for Health and Safety Administration, including an increase in the number of health and safety inspectors. Well, if we can go back to the mining industry, what this government has done in setting up the High Hazard Unit, which sounds all well and good, it now has 3 mining inspectors in place. 3, that's up 50% admittedly, from 2 at the time of the Pike River disaster to 3 now. Those individuals are under pressure now. Maybe not quite the same as it was, but nonetheless under pressure. So for the government to have made the announcement, everyone to have thought that we'd have a huge boost in the focus on health and safety in the mining industry, it has not occurred. It has not occurred, and the families of those people who lost their lives in Pike River don't feel too good about that, because one of the things that they have hoped to see was a substantive increase in the focus on mine safety. Admittedly, we've had a couple of mines close, unfortunately, under the national government. One of them because of their own mismanagement of solid energy. We've seen them close. That is unfortunate. Maybe the workload's not quite as good as it was, Mr Chairman. Mr Chairman.
I call the honourable member Maggie Barry.
I move that the question be now put.
No, I'm going to call the honourable member